Hello and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Owen. Guys, this is the only place to find daily Rangers news, daily Rangers content, all about the greatest team in the world, the most successful team in the world, Glasgow Rangers. Well, guys, today we're going to talk obviously a little bit about obviously the huge summer that is coming up for Rangers. And Michael Beale talked about this in his press conference today, obviously on the back of Ross Wilson's departure to join Nottingham Forest. Obviously, that is going to be something that influences how Rangers work over this summer and acquiring new talent. Guys, if you do want to find the podcast, by the way, on any other of the social media networks, you can find us on Twitter at GRN1872. You can also find us on Instagram, which is Glasgow Rangers Nation. That's on Instagram. Please follow us on there. Lots of different pictures and images on there, and videos and reels, go to content. Or you can find us on Glasgow Rangers Nation Official. That is our Facebook group. Please ask to join, and either myself or Victoria will approve you. You can email us with your content, your photos from the game, glasgowrangersnation@gmail.com. Or if you want to buy the pod a coffee, you want to buy Victoria and I a coffee, www.buymeacoffee.com/penguins tea. Random email address, I know. There is a story behind that. If you want to know, email me to find out. Anyway, guys, let's talk about this massive summer. Now, Michael Beale spoke about this summer, about the recruitment needed, about the fact that we need to build for the future in his press conference today. And, it was nice. It was refreshing to hear that, that Michael seems very focused, and he seems very much focusing on building a squad that is going to be capable of competing both in the SPFL and also in Europe as well. I think that is certainly his intention. As Michael is certainly someone who I think is very ambitious. He wants to improve, wants to prove himself as a manager, but not just as a manager, as a coach. Michael Beale is a fantastic coach. That's one of the reasons why Rangers brought him in. Obviously with the departure of Ross, can't speak today, guys. I do apologise. Ross Wilson, even. Michael Beale is going to have to take on some of that sporting director role over the summer until someone new is appointed. He's very much going to have to work, to secure these transfers, to negotiate these contracts and bring these players in. Very much like an old school manager, like the days of Graham Souness and Walter Smith, the glory days, obviously. I mean, remember back to when Graham Souness was in charge and Walter Smith was in charge. Great days indeed. He said that the recruitment plans would remain unaffected by Ross Wilson's departure, and that he would take on that role of finding these players and making sure these players were brought into the club, along with working obviously with the recruitment staff, the scouting staff, and others. He said that as far as the recruitment plans for the summer were going, that they were already talking to players, they were already starting to negotiate with agents, and were really getting on top of it. Michael Beale spoke very much about the fact that he wants to secure this squad early. He wants to bring these players in early. He wants to get them, he wants to get his business done, and he wants to get this team in ready for pre-season. And I think that is absolutely vital. The fact that we hit the ground running, ready to start the season. I think one thing you can take, no matter what you think of them, and no matter what you think of Ange Postecoglou, he is certainly a manager who identifies his targets early, gets them in early, and gets that squad established early so that he can start to establish his team ready for the start of the season, ready to hit the ground running. And that's certainly something that Michael Beale, I think, has talked about. He said the fact that, that he would also be looking at Bosmans as well. I think, there is a budget there. Of course, there's a budget there. And he has spoken in the past about that budget and about the fact that, that he has a reasonable budget, equivalent to, if not better than previous Rangers managers have had, certainly than Gio and Steven Gerrard. But, he also talked about the fact that he would be using Bosmans. He would be looking at possible free transfers and boxing very clever. Certainly, if you look back at Michael Beale's time at Queen's Park Rangers, in the summer before the start of the championship season, Michael Beale brought in 9 new players. At least 4 of those were on Bosman freeze. He didn't have a great deal of money to work with at QPR. And certainly, when he left Queen's Park Rangers, they were certainly near the top of the league and contending for the title. Now, at time of recording, QPR are near to the relegation zone since Michael Beale's departure. Certainly his influence and his way of coaching, his way of managing was a fundamental principle behind how well they did. but he's certainly someone who is very transfer savvy. He has worked all over the world, and he's worked in Brazil, he's worked with Chelsea's youth team, he's worked with Aston Villa, he's worked with the Queen's Park Rangers. He's done a wide range of coaching jobs and done very, very well at those coaching jobs. Now, one fascinating thing to come out of his press conference today in terms of signings was the fact that he said that he would be signing players that he's previously worked with, players he knows, players he's got to know, and players that he trusts. And I think that is very, very interesting, and that I think will send Rangers fans scrabbling for Google to find out where he's been, the types of players that he's had, and perhaps starting to dream about some of the players we could possibly bring in. But he's certainly someone who I think has a very clear vision of what he wants in terms of the squad. He has a very clear vision in terms of the types of players that he wants. I think when he came in, he took over from Gio, he very much talked about the fact that this was about managing it through to the end of the season and then using the summer to build his squad, to build his team. And I think that's something obviously he's going to have the opportunity to do this summer. Beale is clearly very ambitious. He clearly knows what he wants. He clearly knows who he wants as well. He spoke before the Dundee United game about 5 names he'd handed to Ross Wilson, and I'm sure that is, still the case. And the 5 names that I presume that he will now take over negotiating with and bring in, hopefully bring into the club. But he has spoken very much about the fact that this is a huge summer, that there will be an overhaul of the playing staff. Obviously, there are 9 players who are out of contract, including Malik Tillman. There are 4 players in John McLaughlin, Borna Barisic, John Lundstrom, and the other name escapes me for the moment. It will come to me shortly, who are out of contract next summer. And certainly we can't be, in a position where we are sitting down and this time next season and saying, oh, look, these 4 players are out of contract. They're going to walk for nothing. That's certainly something we cannot, as a club, allow to happen. That is certainly not a mistake we can allow to repeat. This has been repeated a number of times, obviously, with those 8 players, and we can't allow that to happen. Certainly, if you look at in terms of the likes of Alfie Morelos and Ryan Kent, they're players we could have got a lot of money for, but obviously with the situation that that we are now in, those are going to walk for free. They could have possibly been somewhere in the region of 23 to 25 million euros worth of business, but obviously now they are worth nothing, as they will walk in the summer. The players of another player that I've just remembered is Kamar Roof, obviously Mr. Injury Prone himself, Mr. Glass. So these are players we're going to have to make decisions over, I think, this summer. John Lundstrom, Kamar Roof, Borna Barisic, and John McLaughlin, the reserve goalkeeper. Again, players we're going to need to make decisions on. What do we do with them? Do we sell them on this summer? Do we move them on this summer? Certainly, Borna has spoken a little bit about that already, and that if he does move on, a club like Rangers was his exact words, that where he wants to move to. And I think again there are big decisions to be made around those 4 players. Glenn Kamara is another one who's been talked about in terms of an exit from Rangers. So lots of decisions to make. It is certainly going to be a huge summer. But listening to Michael Beale talk today in his press conference, he does seem very focused, very ready for that. Ready and willing to build a new team and to build a new squad ready to compete next season. Well, Rangers fans, let me know in the comments below. What do you think of what Michael Beale had to say today? Do you think that he can take on that role? Can he sign those players? Who would you like to see come in? And, what would you like to see in terms of those players who are coming out of contract next season? Borna, John Lundstrom, Kamar Roof, and John McLaughlin. What do you want us to do with those? Should we sell those on? Or should they be offered extended deals? What is the situation with those players? Let me know in the comments below. Guys, we love to read your comments. We always try and write back to you. That's one of the key things. Like I said, this is a fan-driven channel. Your team every day. It's all about interacting with you as a fan, building a fan community, building a real community of Rangers fans. We are one family, a blue family, working forward, a red, white and blue family, really, supporting the greatest team in football, Glasgow Rangers. Well, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you here on the channel. Please remember to hit that sub, ring that notification bell, and give this video a like, guys. It really does help. I'm back to speak to you very soon. Remember, we have got the live stream coming later. Rangers versus St Mirren. Obviously, breaking team news when it comes as well. I'm looking obviously at the post-match pod as well. So please tune in for that. Thank you, guys. Guys, keep the faith. We are still in this. We can still win the Scottish Cup. it's still out there to win. Keep the faith, guys. Keep the faith.